So once a person becomes an approved foster care provider, you are expected to step into the shoes of the parents. You're not replacing birth parents in any form or fashion. What you're doing is providing that parental function and role to that child. You're seeing about their needs, their medical needs, their educational needs, their day-to-day care. And that's really something that we're going to hold your hand through that process. We give you training, we help you where you need to sort of get assistance. But it's really about seeing about that child's needs while they're in a temporary space. I feel as though Natasha, who is our former foster parent, could give greater context to that.
So as Angeli says, that Children's Authority did give me that support. For me, Natasha, going in, I had no expectation. I really went genuinely interested in helping a child to feel a sense of belonging and to feel love from my family while their parents were getting ready. I have 2 children of my own. I know what parenting feels like. It's always something different every single day, but I can assure you that Children's Authority held my hand through it. When my baby needed to be vaccinated, they picked my baby up, took her to be vaccinated. They took her to get her heart checked, her ears checked, her eyes checked. They got more attention than my children got medically. They were really on hand, and when I felt that I needed more help, I would call my caseworker, and she was always there to give me that guidance. Also, monthly we would have a meeting on Zoom with other foster parents, and they're really very, very talented and well-experienced psychologists who will deal with topics that helped us to navigate any challenges. And what was really nice about the community is that everyone will chime in and share their experiences. So we got a chance to meet other foster parents and to share our experience and share our journey together. And it felt like a community of people. It really took a village to
So when we ask persons to open their hearts and homes to becoming a foster parent, what is required? We're really asking persons to have love in their heart and a safe space for this child to be. So it really is a thorough process that we're making sure the persons are screened and vetted before they become approved foster care providers. And that process is legislatively mandated. We want to ensure that children who may have been exposed to trauma, neglect, they may have been abandoned, we want to make sure we're taking children who may have been in a space of danger and putting them in a safe home. So the process, whilst it does involve a couple of steps, it is important. We really want to make sure that the persons who are joining our register of approved foster care providers are safe homes. So we ask persons, give us a call, make sure this is something that you are sure about, you're committed to. We then ask you to fill in our application form. We ask for certain things like a medical screener to be sent in, police certificate of character of all adults in the household. We then do our various checks. We do interviews with the applicants as well as members of their household, including children, grandparents. We look at your support persons, references. We also do background checks. We want to make sure you are who you say you are. We also do a psychological assessment. Very simple test, sort of to determine what is the potential for abuse in the home, what are the family dynamics. We also do training for foster parents. So even if you've never had a child in your care before, we want to make sure that you have the basic knowledge of how to raise a child, how to care about their needs. And once all of those steps are done and there's no red flags or concerns, we can put you forward to our board for approval. So when persons come to us expressing interest to become a foster parent, there's all different types of persons who come to us, and our focus is looking at the safety in their home. We really want to ensure that children are safe, their needs are being met. For example, if you have a baby, we want to make sure that your home is child-proof and it's safe for a child that age, or maybe an older child who's walking, who's crawling. We really want to ensure that if a child is placed in your home, we are certain that they're not going to be in any danger. Also, when we're looking at types of foster parents, we're not just looking at, say, traditional families where we have a mother and father. There's many amazing single applicants, single males, single females, and with our help and the support of their support networks, they do an excellent job. Also, one of the things that we look at is ensuring that persons are financially able to meet their own needs, because foster care is a voluntary sort of process. Therefore, we provide a foster care stipend in order to meet the needs of the child placed in your care. It's not a payment to be a foster parent. We want to make sure that those funds being provided for that child in your care aren't going to be abused. And that's why it's so important that you are financially able to meet your own needs as well. Overall, we want to make sure that a child's needs are met in your care, and that's why also when you're approved, you also are monitored and the child is supported in your care. We are creating a team around the child. You're not left on your own to do this. We are here supporting you throughout that. So once you become an approved foster care provider, the foster care unit provides a lot of support to you. And this involves many things, inclusive of training. When you're trained to become a foster parent, we look at different topics such as behavior management, child protection, child safety. We look at sort of medical care of a child who's placed with you. We want to make sure you have those basic skill sets. And the training doesn't stop when you become approved. We try to provide you with ongoing training, sometimes specialist training, maybe a little bit of first aid, fire safety, even looking at things like anger management, self-care techniques, and that can be tailored to your own situation and the age of child in your care. In addition to the foster care stipend that's provided to the child in your care, we also do provide monitoring support. We give you counseling if necessary, psychoeducational sessions if it is that you are experiencing certain difficulties with the child in your care. Also, every month we do have a peer support group that's facilitated by one of our psychologists. In that group, it's voluntary. Foster parents participate in this group and they put topics out there that they might need help with, and they can get support from their own peers, other foster parents who've gone through the situation as well with them. So we really try to hold your hand through that process. Once a child is placed with you, you're not on your own, absolutely not. We are there for any problems, any issues we have, and we will try to help as best as possible. So when I say psychoeducational support, the foster parent is actually paired up with a psychologist who can give that sort of educational support on different issues you may not understand. You may not understand what a child who's gone through abuse, their behaviors that they manifest. And that's why our psychologists kick in and our trained professionals. They're giving you the skill set in order to be able to better parent the child.
I think the skills that a parent would generally have for any child, to me a foster child isn't different to any child. They're just children. Children that deserve to have what any one of us had. You know, I have had two parents who have looked after me and have provided for me, and I wanted my children to have the same. My foster child is not a foster child. That was a child that was welcomed in my home. I wanted my child to feel exactly how my children have felt. So I've had to have patience because it was a baby going into being a toddler. I had to also be able to change on a dime. You know, you're heading to do something, the child has a cough or not feeling so well. It changes your schedule. Also, I was very fortunate, and I would suggest that for anyone, because it does take a village to raise a child. I had a really, and I have a very strong tribe. My family is very much present. I know even my mother, who was infirmed, living another part of Trinidad, when she heard I had a baby and I was relegated to staying home, she was like, I'm coming to see my grandchild, and found her friend, and they drove home by me so that she could meet this baby and make this child feel welcomed in my family. So I just say the skills is not a skill. It's really about having a genuine interest and love for people, for humanity. I think a lot of us in this world are very cynical right now, and I think if we want to have a better world and a better Trinidad and Tobago, just share love freely with a child who really deserves it, and allow this family to have a chance to, as we like to say in Trinidad, catch themselves, get themselves prepared to receive their baby or their child, and to be able to continue hopefully seamlessly. I mean, everybody's situation is different. Mine was really genuinely a good experience, and it turned out to be one that has changed my life in the most positive way. The most difficult part of this is the one that everybody is afraid of: letting go. Letting go is always one where a lot of my people that I've met and understand what foster parenting takes, they said, I'd love to do it, but letting go is the hardest part. For me, it was difficult, but I was always aware that this was part of the course. It was that I was not keeping, I was giving. I was giving a child a chance. So releasing was part of it. And the thing about Children's Authority is even when you are preparing to embark on this journey, they train you. And the one thing they tell you is foster parenting is about letting go. Foster parenting is temporary, whereas adoption is permanent. So be clear. Foster parenting is giving someone a space to grow and to feel love and to feel a sense of belonging. So I was aware of that. The thing about it is once I did release and let go, Children's Authority offered me support by having me meet their psychologist, talk through anything. My tribe was also given the same support. And even now, through the caseworker, I am kept abreast of how my baby is grown and growing. I'm allowed, because my situation may be different, I have created a relationship through my caseworker where I can send gifts or send, just some stuff for school. So it is the type of, you go into this with an open heart, and the realm of possibilities are endless. That's all I could tell you, because it really, for me, was a positive. I grew up in an environment where I saw my grandmother, my grandfather, my aunties, my uncles take in friends, neighbors, children. My dad used to mentor kids as well. My mom was involved in associations like Mental Health Association that helped others. So I already had the role modeling that you're not here on this planet alone, that we're here to be our brothers and our sisters keepers as well. And if something is given to you that you can share, to share. There's a song, if you can help somebody along the way, your living is not in vain. So for me, having been a foster parent and experiencing that, my children have always seen my home open to so many aunties, so many cousins, so many nephews. My home has always been open. So I can't think that it feels any different to just my life. But I think for all of us, when we give a gift to someone, we receive, to me, even more than the act of giving. So I would say, that I felt a sense of purpose. I felt that I learned how to love a stranger without reservation, and would be happy to do that again. And I think for me, I've learned as well that it doesn't only affect you, that in giving, it really created a lot of joy amongst my entire family. They've also grown from it, and I'm really proud of my children, how they're evolving as a result of their parents, for me opening up for other people.
Persons often ask what types of children come to foster care. So we have all different age ranges, from newborn babies, toddlers, teenagers. As a foster parent, you do get to state your preference in the type of child that you get into your care. If it is that you prefer and you have a skill set in dealing with babies, you let us know. But we really do appeal to the public to consider fostering teenagers and older children. That is often the neglected age group. A lot of persons think older children are coming with baggage. And it's true, sometimes children coming into foster care at an older age have behavioral issues, but it's important for us to have empathy and remember that they're coming to us with behavioral issues a lot of the times because of what they've been through. And it's amazing with the love and attention that you give them that you can actually address those issues and you can have a changed child once they leave your care.
Because I'm so passionate about foster parenting, I decided to advocate for foster parenting with the Children's Authority. I would highly recommend it. If you have the time, the space in your home, the love in your heart, and the feeling of sometimes just wanting to be a parent to somebody, because there are many people who have told me that they're single, they have been single, and they really would love to experience parenting. Hey, this is possibly the road to take. And the only way that you can know is if you take the first step, get in touch with the Children's Authority. And let me tell you something, because of the stringent measures and the questions that they ask and the process it takes, it gives you enough time to know whether or not this is a fit for you. Because they also want to make sure that it's a fit for you, and they will question you in every single way. And so you have an opportunity to really know whether you connect with this. This might be the journey that you need to take.
Adoption is permanent. It is the legal transfer of all parental rights and responsibilities from the biological parents of a child to the persons who now want to adopt this child, and we call them the adopters. It is important to note that we must get the consent from the adopters for an adoption to be processed. Also, the Children's Authority is the only body in Trinidad and Tobago responsible for processing an adoption application. There are two types of adoptions processed by the Children's Authority: an open adoption and a closed adoption, and I'll get into what these mean. An open adoption is one in which there's a relationship between the biological parents of this child as well as the adoptive parents. They know each other. So for example, let's say an aunt or an uncle is caring for a niece or a nephew. There is identifying information whereby the child knows his or her parents as well as the adopters and the biological parents know each other. And this is an open adoption. When persons think of adoption, they usually just think of us processing applications to place a child with a family. However, we do more than just that. There are families in our society whereby aunts, uncles, grandparents are caring for children. And we want to bring about awareness that they can legally formalize this relationship through an adoption. This is important because adoption brings about permanency, a sense of belonging, and gives that child stability within that family. And by law, once the adoption is granted, the child will now carry an adoption certificate, and the adoptive parents' names will be placed on it as the parents of the child. Additionally, once that adoption is granted, the child is entitled to the inheritance of that family, giving them more security. In a closed adoption, there is no relationship between the biological parents as well as the adoptive parents of this child. So once a birth parent informs us that they wish to place this child for adoption, no information is shared with the persons who are going to adopt this child. This brings about a sense of closure for the biological parents. However, if this child wishes to locate his or her biological parents, they can make an application to unseal their birth records, and this We understand that there's a common misconception that there are so many children within the children's homes as well as the hospitals who are available for adoption. However, this is not the case. Those children who are there may be there for, let's say, reasons such as being placed by the court until they reach the age of 18. Some may even be going through the reintegration process with their families that persons on the outside don't know about. So let me just start by saying that these children are not candidates for adoption and they are not under the purview of the adoption unit. The necessary investigations need to be conducted for us to locate the birth parents or family members of these children, to have a discussion with them to see what are their views about giving up their parental rights and placing their children for adoption. Especially because it is legislative, we cannot just take a child from the hospital or the community residence to place with a family. We do the necessary investigations to locate these birth parents and have them come into our offices to have a meeting about their decision to place their children for adoption or not. I should note that although we've had these meetings with these parents, a lot of times, most of them do not wish to give up their children for adoption. They sometimes visit them, and I want to use this opportunity to appeal to these parents. Even though that these children may be there all their lives, think about giving them a second chance at life, that hope, whether it be for an educational opportunity or to experience what it may be like to live with a family. Adoption is not about finding a child for a family, it is about finding a family. Parents who wish to place their child for adoption, it is a selfless act to think about giving your child a second chance at life. If someone knows for whatever reason, such as it might be financial, mental, or you don't have that family support or even support from friends, we invite you to contact us to have that safe and confidential information so we can discuss about what is the best option for you. And the Children's Authority is not in the business of just taking away children from families, so we will explore with you whether it might be you think there's another family member who can care for this child, or even if foster care is an option. Once you think that adoption is in the best interest of yourself and your child, we will explore that option with you. As stated before, the Children's Authority is the only body in Trinidad and Tobago responsible for processing an application for adoption. So we do encourage persons to visit us, because if you do decide to make an arrangement with, let's say, a friend or someone to adopt your child outside of the Children's Authority, persons can be fined and charged for this arrangement, and we don't want that to happen. So please contact us so we can explain.